Hello and welcome to another video. I hope you are very well. My name is Lizzie and today I'm bringing you my January reading wrap up, all the books that I read in January 2026. I've only just got used to it being 2026 and now I have to get used to being February. Like, what even is that? January was a really good start to the reading year for me. My goal this year, as it has been for the last few years, is to read 100 books, and I am ahead of schedule, which is always a nice place to be at the end of January. And I feel like the books I've read this January are a nice sort of indication of the kind of books I want to be reading all year. We're going to keep it really simple. We're going to go through the books I read in the order I read them. I'm going to give you a very quick overview of my thoughts because with 13 books there's a lot to get to, and as always I will leave in the description the reviews that I have written that have already been posted for books I've read. Some of the books I read this month, my reviews come out further down the line, so little plug to subscribe to my blog. And the last thing before we get into it, the little tippy taps you can hear, that's my dog. She's finally stopped barking, so I'll let her wander around, even if it means a little bit of noise pollution. Oh, and she's come to say hello. So the first book I read in January, and it's always an important book, you've got to choose it carefully, the first book you read of the year, and that is Never After by Alexis Hall. Now, Alexis Hall, as I have mentioned so many times, is one of my favourite authors, and this book is very different from his usual fare. It is a historical, I would call it a romance, but I can understand why some people are reluctant to put it in that genre. It is a historical fiction about two men in the Victorian era. It is a lot darker than Alexis Hall's usual sort of romantic output, but I felt like it still dealt with a lot of the same themes. It still sort of explored ideas of identity and community and how we communicate with each other. It was beautifully written. I absolutely loved it. It is quite dark and does explore a lot of darker themes as well, but I thought it was really well done, of course, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a really strong start to the year, and this darker tone is something I continued into my second book of the year, which is The Book of Blood and Roses by Annie Summerlee. I have quite a few gothic, sapphic novels on my TBR for the year, and this was the first one of them. It's a vampire romance about a vampire hunter who goes undercover to like vampire university and ends up accidentally becoming her roommate's familiar. So they have to break the curse while they're also kind of catching feelings for each other, and there's also all these other things going on with like the vampire hunting society and the vampire secret society. It was so good. It was so good. I was obsessed with this book. It was one of those where when I wasn't reading it, I was thinking about it or talking about it. Those were the only modes I had the whole time I was reading it. Yeah, it was such a page turner. It like drew me into the world so completely. I cannot recommend it enough. Moving on to something completely different, my first non-fiction book of the year is This Way Up by The Map Men by Jay Foreman and Mark Cooper-Jones. Now, I love Map Men. Quite often it's a comfort rewatch for me, honestly, on YouTube, which my wife was always very bemused by. You know, she'll be like, "Oh, what are you watching?" I'm like, "Oh, just a comedy video about the North-South divide. What else would I be watching?" So of course I had to pick up their first book. If you enjoy their YouTube videos, which are sort of educational comedy skits about maps, then you will enjoy this book. It's very much the same kind of comedy style. Their commitment to the bit, I always appreciate it. So sometimes in their YouTube videos, there'll be like a flash of like a news article or a list of something that goes through on the screen, and they didn't have to, put in loads of jokes in that because you can only see it if you pause it. but they do. And the same thing was with this. There are so many little details that they've really committed to the comedy bit, which I really appreciated. And I also felt like I learned a lot about maps. So specifically, this is about when maps go wrong. So the first chapter is about how New Zealand gets accidentally left off a lot of maps. Some of the other chapters are about different maps that have been created for different purposes, the history of different maps. I hated geography at school, but I really enjoyed this book. It was great fun. So yeah, if you enjoy their YouTube videos, or you've enjoyed my description, my terrible description of their YouTube videos, this is definitely one to pick up. Back to the gothic sapphic vibes now. This time, more of a historical fiction is The Need Fire by M.K. Hardy, who I believe are a couple. There's two people writing as one. And this is set in the Victorian era in the Scottish Highlands. A young woman goes to this house in the middle of nowhere. She's going to marry the Baron. He's very mysterious, very sort of keeps to himself. And it's also mysterious is the housekeeper, and they start this sort of back and forth, and you know, they start to maybe catch some feelings for each other, but also there's like horror shenanigans going on. I really enjoyed it. It was, yeah, very spooky and atmospheric read, perfect for January, really, really perfect for January. Yet more, there's even more, even more gothic sapphic. If I say it too fast, I can't say it. Gothic sapphic books. Bitter Thorn by Kat Dunn. I read Hungerstone last year and I really enjoyed it. And this is her YA novel. Very sort of fairy tale inspired, but in like the old style fairy tales where like there was more death and gruesomeness. This is set in a town in Germany, and there is a witch who every generation takes someone from the town and they are never seen again. And the daughter of the Baron volunteers herself to go with the witch. She finds out what she does with the people that she takes, what her story is, what she's been through. And again, it's sapphic. There's a romance. It's very sort of dark and twisted, but in like a good way, I guess. In, you know, in a fantasy way. It was great. Again, I really enjoyed this. I was like completely hooked, just devoured it. It was so, so good. More sapphic fantasy. There is a theme. What can I say? There's a theme. And this is The Revenge of Captain Vessier by Leslie Allen. Is that the author's name? That is the author's name. This was one of the finalists for the Book Bloggers Novel of the Year award. And this is a vampire, pirate, sapphic, trans-inclusive fantasy adventure. I don't think I need to say any more. I think that sort of like sums it up basically. This was just great fun. It was a really fun adventure, really sort of immersive, and just took you along for the ride. There were some really nice like emotional kind of full circle moments towards the end of the book, and a nice little setup for a sequel to follow on from this one. I think if you enjoy all the things that are in this book, you will enjoy this book. Like that's all I can really say. You just gotta read it and enjoy it. And now for something completely different, is Choir Girl by Ashley Granillo. And I was drawn to this book because I am a choir kid and I'm also a choir adult. I love choir. It's my thing. It's literally my job. Like, I love it. And so in this book, it's a middle grade book about a girl who is in an emo band. Her dad is like from an emo band from back in the day. She and her sisters are his like support act, but she really wants to be in choir, and she has all these different things, all these things that her parents want her to do and her sisters, all these things pulling her in different directions. And it's just about her finding her path and following her path and everyone else supporting her in that. And I really liked the way that different music genres were used as like a metaphor for blending different parts of your life. So if you are musically inclined, it was a really lovely middle grade read. And again, very inclusive. Just a really, really nice, enjoyable story. Then I read my first translated book of the year, which is The Menu of Happiness by Hisashi Kashiwai. This is the third book in the Kamigawa Food Detectives series. So it's about a restaurant in Kyoto, which is run by a father and daughter. And people come to the restaurant to have an important meal from their past be recreated. And through the recreation of that meal, they find some sort of healing or closure or something in their life. It's kind of structured almost like a series of short stories, with like a little bit of a through narrative about the father and daughter who run the restaurant. And it's just a really lovely series of books. I do think this one maybe wasn't as strong as the first two, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. I think this would make a great, it should just be a great TV series, because you could just have, it's written that way, you could have one episode for each person that comes to the diner, and it's just really lovely and all about sort of not just the power that food can have, but the way that, our history and our stories all link together in that way, and it's just lovely. It's really nice. Back to sapphic fantasy, Nightshade and Oak by Molly O'Neill. And I read Green Teeth by Molly O'Neill last year. I really enjoyed it. I read it and I was like, this isn't sapphic, but it has those vibes. And then she released a sapphic book, so it's great. We love that. The two main characters in this book, you have the goddess of death and you have Boudica's daughter. So it's very much rooted in Celtic history and mythology, and they kind of like meet together. Hello, you come to help again. I especially liked the first half of the book. So Macht, the goddess of death, she accidentally becomes human, and so Bellis, who is the daughter of Boudica, who's the one who accidentally turns Macht into a human, they go on a sort of quest together to save Bellis' sister and to return Macht's immortality to her. I'm doing my best with the double L's. My Welsh pronunciation is... I'm working on it. I did particularly enjoy the first half. The second half sort of introduced a lot more characters and ideas, and I think sort of lost some of its trajectory a little bit. But the end was really lovely and really sort of bittersweet, and very emotional ending. So yeah, I think Molly O'Neill is one I'm going to keep coming back to. I'm really enjoying her books at the moment. Back to some translated fiction. I read The Third Love by Hiromi Kawakami. And I didn't really enjoy this book. It was my first kind of disappointment of the year. As the main character, Riko, she's in an unhappy marriage with an older man, and she reconnects with someone she knew as a child, and in her dreams sort of time slips into different time periods throughout Japan's history and lives the lives of women from different eras before, and it helps give her like a new perspective on love and life and family and how she wants to live her life. There were things I really liked. I liked the sort of concept. I really liked the setup. I could sort of see from the start where these sort of fractures were in her marriage and in her life, and I was intrigued to see them kind of be explored. But yeah, it didn't work for me. It's quite hard to explain why. I think part of it is I just didn't like that at the end she was like, I've fallen in love with two older men and that's me done now. I'm gonna, this is my lot in life. A lot of the things that I sort of wanted her to see and go through, she didn't. But there were some things I did like. So yeah, I don't think this is an author I'll be returning to, but I'm glad I gave it a go. A couple of the books I've already mentioned have been part of book tours I have done, and the next one is one of those as well. It is The Seven Daughters of Dupree by Nikisha Elise Williams. Now, it follows 7 generations of the same family, as you can imagine from the title, growing up in Alabama, starting in the sort of mid-19th century through to the new millennium. So there's a lot of trauma, a lot of generational trauma that has been passed on, as the very first woman in this line, we don't even know her name. She is described by the name that was given to her by her captor, but it's made clear that's not her name. And you've got these 7 generations coming after her who are sort of all recovering from what has happened to their family and the world they've been thrown into. It's not written chronologically, and I was a little bit apprehensive that I wouldn't be able to follow all 7 daughters and all of their stories, but I did not need to be worried because it was so well crafted and well put together that even though we were jumping around timelines all the time, we were jumping between all these different characters who were all related to each other, I still was just drawn into it and felt like I knew this family inside and out. It was such a powerful read, some really emotional moments, some really kind of, yeah, so some points I sort of got to the end of a chapter and was like, I just need to have a whew before I get back into this. It is an incredible book. It's getting lots of hype for its new release, and I would like to add to the hype. This is the gorgeous UK cover. So yes, I'm going to give this all the hype that it deserves, and go check it out. We're nearly there. I really needed something lighthearted after finishing The Seven Daughters of Dupree, so I picked up Puck by Samantha Allen, which is coming out in June of this year, I believe. It's inspired by Midsummer Night's Dream, and Puck is a non-binary reality TV presenter who decides to meddle in their friends' love lives to try to stop two of them getting married when they shouldn't. It was so much fun. I had such a great time with this book. There wasn't much exposition. I would have liked a bit more sort of getting to know Puck and where they were at in their life before we kind of got into the nitty-gritty of all of this meddling. But it was so much fun. It was really, really great. There was a romance as well, and I really liked how that romance played out. It was quite sort of unexpected from what I thought it would be, and yeah, it was just great fun. And the last book I read in January, well done if you've stayed with me this far, is Pink Pilled by Lois Shearing. So this is a non-fiction book about the role that women play in the far right, how women are recruited into the far right, and their sort of, yeah, their role in that. What's the word I'm looking for? Movement? I don't know. In that, yeah. I gave this book 3 stars. I thought it was really interesting. It was clearly very well researched, and so the author had created sort of fake online accounts to properly go into these online spaces, see how women are treated, look at the way that women are depicted and discussed and all the kind of contradictions in there, and that was all really, really interesting. By the end of the book, it was sort of starting to kind of meander a little bit. There was lots of oh, and a little bit about this and a little bit about that. But then I still also felt like there were massive things that hadn't been discussed. It was very US-centric, which in some ways makes sense, but also the author wasn't American. There were times I was sort of reading something and I'd go, that's not how it is in the UK, and I want to explore why that's different in the UK or in other countries. So it did feel very US-centric on the whole, but it was still a really, really fascinating and eye-opening read. We made it. Those are all the books I read in January. Let me know what the best books you read in January were, or if you've read any of the books that I did, what did you think of them? Make sure to subscribe to see some more videos from me, and I will see you next time. Ta-ra for now. Back to the sapphic gothic. I can't say it.